For nearly 16 years, Ratko Mladic was on the run. The former head of the Bosnian Serb military was captured yesterday. He'll face charges he committed crimes against humanity. Most notably, Mladic is accused of ordering the deaths of thousands of Bosnian Muslims in the town of Srebrenica. It is considered the worst massacre in Europe since the end of World War II, but it went unnoticed by the world for months. In the summer of 1995, CBS's Barry Peterson, visiting refugee camps, was among the first to hear the stories about the thousands of men who had disappeared. Later, 60 Minutes correspondent Bob Simon was shown the evidence of genocide.
In a field of tears, their memories of terror and death come pouring out. My family, she says. Why didn't they kill me, she is asking. Why didn't they kill me? The UN, he says, they did absolutely nothing to protect us.
It would become clear that Serbs had slaughtered thousands of Bosnian men, their bodies buried in mass graves. 4 years later, UN peacekeepers, mostly from the Netherlands, admitted to 60 Minutes correspondent Bob Simon that Mladic had fooled them.
Warrant Officer Wim Dijkema belonged to that Dutch battalion, which was sent to Srebrenica to stop an attack on the town.
We came there with a will to do as much as we could do, but we failed.
Then Mladic assures the refugees they will be taken to safety. And in fact, the women and children were bussed across the front line and dumped in safe territory. The men, thousands of them, were bussed to neighboring Serb villages, lined up and shot. Hidden from the Serbs, Wim Dijkema was documenting the first stages of genocide.
I realized that I have been very, very naive. When Mladic said, I guarantee their safety, that I believed him. For me, it's unbelievable now, at this moment.
For more on Mladic's arrest this morning, we're joined by CBS News foreign affairs analyst Pamela Falk. Pam, good morning to you.
Good morning.
He was a calculated killer. This was a man that was merciless, but somehow he managed to outwit the UN, and not just the UN, but the British government, the French government, and the Dutch. How did he do it?
Well, he hid for a long time after the war, and Mladic's arrest is a great day for justice, and that is because it is a certain sense of reconciliation. It really is the end of the series of tribunal hearings and trials that go from Slobodan Milosevic, and 34 others are still going on, but it was about 126 people brought to justice. This was a UN court that was established in order to try these war criminals from that war. And how did he dupe the UN? This was a UN safe zone, Srebrenica, that you mentioned. And that was set up because so many people were leaving during this ethnic cleansing of the government. And this was after the breakup of the Soviet Union and when Yugoslavia broke up, and the gall, the utter contempt of justice to attack civilians. And that's what surprised the UN. It really did, and that's how he duped the UN.
Well, let's go back to the 90s here. He's responsible for about 110,000 people being killed, over 2 million being displaced. He called it, as you mentioned, ethnic cleansing. It's a euphemism, if you will, for purging all of these people. The question here, why did he do it?
He did it because they were trying to create a greater Serbia. And the idea here was the former Yugoslavia broke up into Bosnia and Herzegovina, Macedonia, Serbia, Kosovo later, but all of these areas that had different religions and different ethnic groups. And they lived side by side during all the previous centuries, but at this point in time, now people were trying to land grab and only live with their supporters. I mean, and that's really what happened. He went after unarmed civilians in Srebrenica, and that was 8,000 boys and men, and then again in Sarajevo.
Many law experts think that this is an example or a case that can also be applied to Muammar Gaddafi, that over a period of time, you will have to face justice for the crimes that you committed. Do you think that's the case?
Absolutely. They can run, but they can't hide. And now this is a different court. This is the International Criminal Court. In the case of Gaddafi, it's faster, it's in real time. But that's the lesson learned, is that they didn't want it to happen. They didn't want a genocide against civilians. And so both NATO's learned a lesson and the International Criminal Justice System has learned the lesson that you've got to act faster. Srebrenica, all of these tribunals are way too little too late, but it is justice.
You know, this has many parallels to the death of Osama bin Laden. When that death happened, it was a very personal experience to the people of America. It wasn't just an event, it had a direct meaning to many, many people. For the survivors of this, or to relatives of those that were slain, is this on the same scale?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because his boss, Radovan Karadzic, is in the dock already at that court. And so this really does close the big generals, the commanders of this genocide, and puts them in the dock to be tried and to find some justice. And also Slobodan Milosevic died in the during the course of the trial, so there was never justice on that front.
Here's the thing, Mladic was one of the most wanted men in the world. He had a $20 million target on his head. He was even seen sometimes in public. How in the world did he manage to walk around for 16 years and not get caught?
Well, that's the that's the unanswered question, and the president of Serbia, Boris Tadic, said it wasn't that people knew about it, but it does appear that he was handed over in order to garner European Union entrance, and because they made that a condition. And so it was the European Union that sort of put their feet to the fire and said, turn him over. And that's really seems to be what happened. And he was protected, unfortunately, for all these years.
You know, it is an incredible development, and of course, to the people that have lived through this and seen it, it is a very, very big development and a very personal moment for them.
It was a tragic period, and it is great sense of justice.
Right. Pamela Falk, CBS News Foreign Affairs Analyst. Pamela, good to see you this morning.
Good to see you, Terrell.